So welcome everyone to this week's Wisdom Wednesday. We have an amazing special guest and Career Up Now mentor and longtime friend who's been involved since Career Up Now was just an idea. And today we're going to be learning about managing stress and anxiety, which is something that's so frequent and common and such an important Jewish value is being able to manage these things and to live with joy and gratitude and appreciation. And when that comes to mind, I think of Jordana because Jordana, we'd love to hear a little bit about your journey, what brought you from the corporate world to rediscovery to where you are now, and about that, and also how to manage stress, anxiety, and those things in our lives. So welcome.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, Brad. It's great to be here. I'm excited to be participating in another career special presentation. So thank you so much for having me and for time and your breath. So I started my career in advertising, and I worked in advertising over a decade. Advertising was perfect for me because I'm a self-declared type A. Anyone else just yeah, I'm a type A, and that's so awesome because I like to be hard on myself. And anxiety and stress was like a birthright. It was like I'm wearing a medal on my chest because I'm stressed out. It means that I'm working hard and therefore I should be celebrated. And environment really, it led me towards chronic illness, actually. I know a lot of us experience issues. When I was in my 20s, I had severe GI issues and something called ulcerative colitis, which is really a disease of stress. Through the path of yoga and I found ways to manage that. And a couple of years ago, though it was in complete control, I decided that, I really wanted to expand mine in modalities to ease stress and anxiety and find more people. And so I left my role as an executive producer. I traveled to, goes for this, in the Himalayas. And I was lucky enough to spend 1.5 years working in wellness centers in Asia and more tools that I now people here in America and California. Really interesting. It is so prevalent. We have anxiety here in the West. In fact, more people have anxiety disorders here than in third world. Statistic the other day, somewhere around 40 million Americans experience an anxiety disorder, which that's nearly 1 in 5. It's pretty scary to think about that we're living in this state of anxiety. And so I want to talk today a little bit about anxiety and stress, the difference between the two, and when it might be good, when it might, because it's not all bad. And then some things that we can do that are just kind of quick fixes to get rid of that anxiety and stress, but also open dialogue about, where your stress and anxiety. Does that sound good?
Yeah. That's awesome.
If anyone on the call just wants to chime in, share your name and what brought you onto this call, and maybe an area in your life where you feel excessive stress or anxiety.
Hi, this is Esther, and I think what brought me to this call is that there's a lot of pressure to say how busy you are, how stressed you are, and we don't emphasize, oh no, I was able to take some time off and take some leisure space for myself, and there's just a lot of pressure to go, go, go.
Yeah, absolutely. Esther, where are you calling in from?
I'm calling from San Francisco.
And in cities like San Francisco and New York, the culture, the work, so much like who's working the hardest, which is like that about working smarter.
Definitely.
Yeah. Thank you.
My name is Allie. So yeah, I'm also in marketing, advertising, and I totally hear what you're saying. I've been working in a media agency for over almost 4 years. And, you know, I always knew that it was not the right environment for me because I know everyone says, oh yeah, it's super fast paced and super, you know, intense, but like there's something about being in an agency that doubles that because you're consulting for another client, and then you have to put that expectation on yourself, and then, you know, the work that you're doing, you're working so hard at it, but then it can just kind of, you know, fall to the floor because there's so many voices and so many opinions. So for me, I always knew that agency wasn't for me just because of that nature, but I'm still here almost 4 years later. And yeah, I've definitely over the last, like towards the end, like I feel like I'm approaching that ending point for me. I even moved to LA. I was working in the New York offices, and New York is obviously a different beast of its own. And I thought coming to the LA office would definitely make it less stressful, less anxiety ridden, but entertainment takes over LA. So there's a new sort of anxiety that brings that, and it's a different vibe in the office. And while a smaller office, you think, oh, it's better and people are closer, it's more divided that I've seen. And it's like, you know, you have the people on the Sony team, you have people on the Hulu team, and that's what people do. So you feel the energy, and I'm very like, you know, I feel people's vibe and energy really well. And if people are stressed out, I get stressed out. And like, especially being on entertainment brands, it's constant stress. And it was a very hard reality to wake up to, because at the end of the day, like the work that we get to do is like pretty awesome and cool, but the anxiety and stress that like I've been feeling over the last like year or so, it's like, what am I doing here? So it's kind of a shell shock to your system. And you know, everyone's like, oh, do yoga, meditation. I'm like, well, how am I supposed to do that if I'm working till 7 o'clock every day? Like, when do I, you know, take that break for myself and really reset? Because there's no time to have a social life, to work out, to eat, like, and to get a good night's sleep. You have to pack all of that in such a short amount of time. And I think that's the stressful part too.
Yeah. Wow. Allie, thank you so much for sharing. It resonates for me. I work in advertising and moved to Los Angeles to see if I could let some of that stress. And it didn't work. The stress followed, the anxiety followed, and certainly working in a culture, in an agency where they're not supporting us in work-life balance can be really, really difficult.
For sure.
Sometimes it's like whoever is working the longest hours is rewarded. People who don't take vacation are rewarded. I think that, you know, from the top really needs to change. But I will say this: I left my role as an executive producer in Los Angeles, and of time it alleviated the stress and anxiety. Came back. It came back because, you know, one thing that I hadn't done when I left my job was I didn't really plan for what was next. I decided to live, and I felt the resources within to live in that question. It's actually, you know, a Jewish value to curious and to question, but when you have a lot of anxiety, it's you know, it's going to serve us to plan. And so I think this is a good moment. We'll continue to take more people, but talk about the good and the bad sides of anxiety, right? So standing like right now, like you, like describe how you're feeling, like sort of like your everyday, the feelings in your body, the feelings about your life resulting from work.
Yeah, it's the fact that like I feel, you know, chasing Fridays is I know everyone has that feeling, but the fact that like we're always just counting down to that Friday, and then the stress of like, you know, Sunday scaries that people like to call it. But yeah, over time it's like, you know, my body is like not excited to like go to sleep because I'm scared not scared, but just anxious to go to work the next day and like have to read my emails and have to respond. You know, it's just all of that like, you know, layers onto each other. So that has definitely felt like even more stress ridden than ever before. And for me, that's just not how I don't like functioning that way. Like I want every day and not just live for the weekend, but just to, you know, enjoy the weekends but not be stressed out about going back to work.
Yeah, right. So to begin to, rather than, it sounds like there's this sustained state of burnout that you're experiencing. Yeah.
100% burnout. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when we look at that, so then we can become even like, we can have more anxiety even just about the fact that it's like, oh my God, I'm burned out. When is this going to end? I'm going to, you know, like there are future fears that come up, right?
Yep.
Do you have any, like, are there any like future around that?
Sorry, you cut out. What did you say?
Sure. Like any fears that you have around like the sustained state of physical burnout?
I mean, I've kind of come to terms with the fact that I definitely am at burnout stage. I feel like I'm coming out the other side now that work has definitely died down a bit, because for the last like 6 months, it's just been going. And I'm, you know, I take the approach of like just being very transparent. Like I have a good relationship with my boss, thankfully. So, you know, I tell her what's been happening, what's been going on with me, and, you know, having that transparency and, you know, being real and in that type of setting, I find is actually better than just holding it back. Especially when people like want to help you and want to work with you, because that environment can just get so burnt out so quickly that people, like I've had people on my team just leave without anywhere to go because everyone's just so burnt out. And I don't want to necessarily take that approach because it's not the smart, logical thing to do, but there's been times where I'm like, I want to quit tomorrow. But I think at the end of the day, like being open with my direct boss and having that transparency, being like, listen, like I'm not happy. We need to figure out what to do. I need to create a better environment for myself because I like working for you. I like the work that I get to do, but not in this environment. And yeah, I think just being like honest about what's going on instead of scared of like telling someone that you're going through this, I think is normal. And I think people experience it all, but I think in this environment, people just tend to hold it back, and that makes it worse. But what I found when I opened up to my boss about it, I felt 10 times better. And then we were figuring out a solution on what can we do to help you feel good, you know?
Exactly. So I like to say that there's two sides to this anxiety, that there's the wisdom and then there's the crazy, right? So the wisdom, Allie, you followed that wisdom path and you said, okay, there's clearly an issue here. And what can I do about the fact that this is leading me to burnout? And so you've created a solution that is supporting you to release some of the anxiety. So that's one of the wisdoms of like the way that you're feeling in your body. It's like you've got, you know, some symptoms of insomnia, of low energy, maybe even like a lack of focus. And so you're noticing that there's this awareness there, and then you're saying, okay, well, there's wisdom in all of this. The wisdom is that it's going to lead to burnout, which means that I'm not going to be a good employee. So what can I do? And even more beautiful is to embrace that feeling. And that's something that, you know, one of the things that has really supported me in letting go of anxiety is meditation. And when we have a meditation practice, even just a couple minutes a day, it can support us in just meeting ourselves wherever we're at, knowing that, you know, each morning, especially if you take the time at the same time every morning, you might notice that one morning you're meeting yourself with peace, And one morning you're meeting yourself with anger and frustration. And when we are in our meditation, we don't push away any of those feelings. We welcome them. And that's sort of this way to neutralize them, is to say, okay, you're here. And I'm okay with that you're here. And I'm just observing the fact that you're here, anger, that you're here, peace, that you're here, grief, whatever it may be. You breathe with it, and it begins to dissipate. Similarly to the way you shared with your boss, this is what's going on for me. And you immediately felt this openness, this sense of relief.
Yep, exactly.
Nice. So let's hear from someone else on the call. We're talking about what brought us onto the call and where we feel like our stress or anxiety comes from.
Sure. So I'm Riley, student over at UCLA, and I'm also kind of a person that always pushes myself, kind of to my limits. And I think it's good because it's enabled me to grow a lot, to learn a tremendous amount. And I'm also a person who takes a lot of risks. So I'm working on starting a company right out of college versus going like a traditional kind of go get a job route, which is good. But also all these risks also bring fears and anxiety. I found that just like working through it, I'm learning a tremendous amount about myself, becoming a stronger person, but still just like looking for ways to really get the most out of my day, and to be the best person that I can be. So I found, I'm trying to get into routines of meditation, of this kind of thoughtfulness. And I'm good at it sometimes, but not all the time. I think part of it might just be like college life, where there's always, different stuff going on and friends around to distract you. But, that's kind of like where I'm at. I'm trying to figure out like, what the best routine is for me to take care of myself, to take care of my health. Both my physical health and my mental health, so I can get the most out of my days and continue, doing all the stuff that I really enjoy doing, because, I do love my work, and I do like pushing myself to really see what I can do.
Nice. Thanks for sharing, Riley. That sounds really like quite beautiful and a bold path to take right out of college. And, one of the things that we can do on our own to begin to relieve stress and anxiety, it's great to set up a routine that works for you. But I like to say to my clients to test out things and see what works, right? So if you're someone who really likes to be physically active, maybe the best thing for you to do first thing in the morning is to, do a high intensity interval workout, 20 minutes of that, and then sit. A lot of times, we're not able to sit right away, and we might get hard on ourselves, like, oh, I can't even sit with myself for a minute and meditate. It's often because the body is talking to us. The body's got like this extra energy in it. And so, it's for you, it might be a perfect thing to try just doing something that's really high intensity in the morning. And then from there saying like, okay, like letting yourself cool down, and then taking even just a minute to take 3 deep breaths, and a gratitude practice. It sounds like you have a lot of things in your life that you're already really grateful for. But taking it to the next level is to actually write it down. And so then doing that, we're focusing on what's good in our lives, and it's basically amplifying it. And so one way to do it is, if we're alone, we can just write down what are 3 things that we're grateful for. And if we do it every day, it'll change the way you think over time. Another practice that I love to do around gratitude, if you happen to have a significant other that you wake up next to each other every morning, you can do what's called stream of consciousness gratitude. And who wants to play stream of consciousness gratitude with me? Who's up for a fun challenge?
Sure, I can try it.
Riley's going to do it. Okay, great. So Riley, the way that we do this is we set a timer, and it's for, I like to do it for at least a minute, but we just speak into what we're grateful for. Anything and everything that comes up, we just speak it out loud, and then I'll be receiving your gratitude, and then we'll see, you'll see at the end, like kind of how this goes, and then we'll switch.
Okay.
All right, so I'm putting my timer on here on my international cell phone. So here we go.
Cool.
Go for it. What are you grateful for?
All right. So I'm grateful for, myself, my abilities, my health, my parents, my family that have supported me, the friends that I have around me every single day. I'm grateful for my courage, to take risks and to, try to, go out and take the difficult path rather than always taking the easy path. I'm grateful for, really just having like food on the table and a place to sleep every single day, not having to worry about survival, but having the, opportunity to go out and try to achieve something greater and try to even help other people. I guess I'm really grateful for the opportunity to help other people, to give gifts. That's really rewarding for me. And I'm also just grateful to live in LA. LA is pretty great. I like it. Yeah.
Nice. So then we can all do this together. We can take a deep inhale and then exhale, sigh it out the mouth. So let's all just try that one more time. Deep inhale, breathing into the gratitude, and then exhale, allowing ourselves to relax into receiving all of that gratefulness from Riley. And then we just say, wow, Riley, that's a lot to be grateful for. Yeah. And so that's the practice. And then, you switch and you allow the other person to go, or if there's a group of people, you'll go in a circle and everyone gets a minute or a minute and a half. And we get to just fill all of that space with gratitude. And it's sort of amazing what can come up. I found myself being grateful for the colors of flowers, just like the littlest things, or the way that my morning coffee tastes. I'm grateful for the stevia. It's like, okay, it's amazing to see that we can be both grateful for the larger things, our health and our family and our connections, and also appreciate and savor even the smallest details.
That's cool. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Thank you. And thank you for sharing, Riley, for being brave and expressing your gratitudes. Is there someone else on the call who hasn't shared, who'd like to share where you're calling in from and what brought you to this call today, and your thoughts around your own anxiety and stress? Looks like Ben might be unmuting himself, but he's driving, so that's a tricky one.
Yeah.
Hi, Ben.
Yes, I mean, especially in downtown, there's a lot of cops around me, so I had to find a parking lot real quick. Because I was actually with Laurel Hunt right now at her LARC meeting.
That was actually, Ben, I'm going to interrupt you for a second because you did something really great there. So you're on this call and you're feeling the stress, which stress, by the way, it's a short term around a trigger. And so you're triggered by the fact that here you are driving and there's cops, right? So this is causing you stress, right? And then you might have anxiety might come up because you're afraid of something that's going to happen in the future, right? So the anxiety will come from the stress is external, right? And then the anxiety is this like internal response to the stress with a fear of something that might happen in the future. You might get pulled over. So in that moment, now
I don't want to pay for a ticket.
Right. So, but what you did was you're like, okay, like I have this, you might have said, okay, I have this anxiety about getting pulled over by the cops. So I'm going to pull over so that I can participate in the call. So that was you just like meeting yourself and saying like, there's wisdom here. I could really like get pulled over, and that would be a whole situation, really embarrassing on a Zoom call where I'm doing video to get pulled over. So here you are. So I just wanted to point that out and say that like you're living the principles already.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Well, first off, let me introduce myself. Hi, my name is Ben. I'm a commercial realtor. I primarily specialize in development and a few other categories within investments. Well, the reason why I want to tune in, well, first of all, you don't know what you don't know, so might as well, if there's a shred of information that I happen to not know and I learned from the call, perfect. If not, then it's gonna sort of acknowledge all the things that I already have learned. So let's see, anxiety, lots of work,
Yeah.
lots of bills, and I mean, then again, even running a business when you're young. So it's especially at my age. I mean, I'm 21, so trying to do a commercial real estate business, it's tough enough in itself. And then adding the factor of being young in this industry as well. So yeah, that's really it.
Nice. Thanks for sharing, Ben. Yeah, so these are some of the very common sources of anxiety. It's like we're worrying about our job, we're worrying about money, we're worrying oftentimes about what other people might think. I'm 21 years old and I'm in real estate. They're going to think that I don't know what I'm talking about, right? And so it's all valid. We know that comes from somewhere, and we also know that we have jobs to do, right? And that we could get caught in like what these people think, or what I like to do is to shift into how can I just be of service. So rather than like there's this association with I am, it comes up all the time. It's Eckhart Tolle and Deepak Chopra, and where they all talk about this ego, right? And it's this saying like, oh, I am, a young real estate agent. And so it's like, okay, if I'm a young real estate agent, then what does that mean? There are expectations that we begin to put on ourselves just by identifying as I am this. So you now have this, perhaps an expectation of yourself that I need to work harder. I need to prove myself. I need to be better than everyone else so that, people come to me for their real estate needs. And that brings us to this whole other like train of thought that actually begins to build up more anxiety, rather than what we could do is just to recognize, oh, I'm like identifying with this ego self. Maybe it's easy, maybe it's not easy to do, but one thing that we can always do is say, I want to focus outward. And what I mean by that is, rather than focusing on, I need to be the young star real estate agent, saying, this person has a need. What can I do? What knowledge do I have that can support them? How can I be of service? And it's a simple shift, because you might be of service in trying to be the best young real estate agent, for sure. But there's this attachment to your performance as that young real estate agent. And so the self will get in the way. And then you may meet your expectations, you may exceed them, but you may not. And so what will always work is to just focus on this individual and how you can be of service to them in whatever way that you can.
Right.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Thanks for pulling over. And I'm going to speak into just a little bit of like what happens to the brain on stress. And I'm going to just bring this down to a layman's terms so that we can remember it. But there are different parts of the brain that respond to stress. So remember, stress is a short term, it's a trigger. It's something external. It's like a lion running in our direction, or cops like running their sirens. It's something that's an immediate threat. And so what happens is that the threat it's received first in the brain by the amygdala. And the amygdala is the part of the brain that does this assessment on threat. And if there's an alarm or an intense emotion going on, and by the way, it may not even be a threat. It could just be anything, but you might have some intense emotion going on. The amygdala will read that as a sign for the whole body to move into a stress response. So what happens then is that there's an impulse sent to our sympathetic nervous system. And so we have the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that governs fight or flight. So it's in this emergency situation, and we just need to bolt into action. The parasympathetic nervous system is the part of the nervous system that's responsible for us resting and digesting and relaxing and really being in a state of healing. We want to be in the parasympathetic nervous system the majority of the time. But we do need to go into the sympathetic nervous system when there is an actual threat. So what happens to us when we have stress is we go into the amygdala part of the brain, which actually then begins to send these signals to the whole body for like the muscles to tense up, the breath will start to go a little bit quicker. Sometimes we'll begin to sweat, and blood flow is actually diverted it goes towards the head. So we're able to just like think, like just jump, right? But it moves away from like the abdominal organs so that we can have this great mental power to just react. It's great, right? If we're being chased by a lion or, cops, might be a little bit more realistic in Los Angeles. But when there's not actually a real threat going on, when it's just us being afraid of, our boss, or it's this stress that keeps recurring that causes anxiety, we're stuck. And what happens is that we're not actually able to access the part of the brain called the cerebral cortex. And the cerebral cortex is the part of the brain that is responsible for thinking creatively. It's responsible for making good decisions. It's responsible for being rational. It's really this part of the brain that we always want to get to in our work, in our relationships, because it's really what differentiates us as humans from animals. It's that we're able to reason. But we're not able to reason when we're stuck in this stress response. So, ways to move out of the amygdala, to let that alarm stop sounding, and to be able to access the cerebral cortex. The fastest way to do this, it's so simple. It's taking 3 deep breaths. So, I think that it's about time in our call, since we actually only have about 10 minutes left, for us to all take 3 deep breaths together. And so wherever you are, we're just going to try to sit up a little bit taller, just lengthening through the spine. It's this moment of taking pause. And you can do this at any point in the day that you just feel like your heart rate is sped up, or your mind is spinning, or you're just like frustrated because you're not able to get to whatever it is that you're expecting yourself to be able to get to. We just take a pause. So we lengthen through the spine and we roll the shoulders up and back, just creating some more space for us to breathe, for this full breath to move through the body. And then from here, we'll just take a deep inhale through the nose, inhaling deeply, filling up the whole belly on the inhale, holding it for a moment at the top, and then exhaling, sighing it out. And then going for a second inhale. Deep inhale, a little bit deeper than the first, filling up the belly, expanding the belly on the inhale. Holding it at the top just for a moment, relaxing through the face as you do. And then exhaling, sighing it out the mouth. Last one. Take the biggest inhale you've taken all day. Inhaling. Full deep breath, expanding through the belly, holding at the top. Inviting in just a little bit more relaxation, and then exhaling, sighing it out. You might find that you're able to have a little bit more silence now. You might find that you're able to relax even just 5% more than before. And it just takes a minute. So that's one of my favorite practices to do. Just at any time we can use that. There's other breathing techniques as well that are really helpful and supportive. The next one that I like to use is something called a 4-part breath or square breathing. And that's one where we envision a square. As we breathe in, we inhale and we hold the breath. We exhale, we hold the breath, and then we come back to the inhale. So that's one that I actually have a musical track that I'll send to Bradley that he can send out to everybody on this thread that you can listen to. It's a great thing to do in the morning, just to get us set for a meditation practice, or even just to remember that this 4-part breath exists. And I'll just play it for a moment so that you guys can kind of get an understanding of it. It's part of what I call the anxiety response protocol. So when I'm feeling intense anxiety, the first thing that I'll do is I'll play this track, and I'll do 4 minutes of the square breathing, followed by what we were doing in the beginning of this call, which was just identifying where the anxiety is coming from, what's the wisdom in it, and then what's kind of like what gets thrown away, right? What's sort of like the crazy part of the anxiety. It might be like, for example, in Allie's example, like the crazy part might be, so she's got anxiety, perhaps she's got anxiety about all of the tension in her body and feeling burnout. And so the wisdom says that this might lead to burnout, and I need to talk to my boss. There might be the crazy parts of it. She might have these fears of, I'm going to get fired if I speak up. I'm going to get really sick and die. A lot of people have this, like, that just immediately goes to death. And we can look at that. We can be like, okay, like that's a little bit on the crazy side. There's wisdom here that can help to curtail that sort of that crazy thought. So here's that 4-part breath. So I'm going to play it. It might be a little bit, I'm going to see how we do with the volume here, but just to give us an understanding of the way to do it. So can you guys hear that? Thumbs up if you can. Yeah. Okay. So this is the exhale. There's this pause and this hold, so we can try it one round. So when the music comes in, we inhale. Then we hold it. Exhale, count of 4. And we hold it here. Inhale. Holding. Last time, exhaling. And then breathing normally. So we just did that for about 10 seconds, like 15 seconds. And you might already notice a shift in you. Doing it for 4 minutes is like, I don't know, it's like butter. It's like butter. So those are some of the tips that I have time to share here on this call. And I'm excited to share with you that track. If anyone wants to reach out to me personally, I'm more than happy to chat with you. For those of you in Los Angeles, I teach meditation at Unplug in Santa Monica. I'd love to see you. And I also teach meditation on Fridays in Venice. It's a donation-based CBD meditation, which is a topic for another time, another place. If you are looking to go 180 as I did, I absolutely recommend that before you do, you check in and see how you might change the way you look at things, and see if you can add in some of these tools for releasing anxiety before you take a big leap, or perhaps you just get outside of where you are now and you take a break, a vacation, whether it be, going to visit family. Sometimes that can bring on more stress and anxiety, or you just, take a beach day, or you come with me to the Himalayas. These are all ways to kind of just shift your perspective 180 and give yourself the rest and restoration that you need in order to do a great job at whatever it is that you are doing on this planet.
Jordana, thank you so much for being our guide and our guru and our Rav for this Wisdom Wednesday. I feel more centered and less stress and anxiety. So, and also so I just honor you and thank you for being you, and I wish everyone an amazing week.
Thank you so much, Bradley. Thank you for having me. I think we can maybe just close if everyone wants to share one word as to like an intention of what you would like to move forward from here. So it can just be like one way of being, emotion that you'd like to choose into moving forward from this moment on. So mine is peace.
Mine would be patience.
Nice. Let's hear from, yeah.
Being maybe centered.
Centered. And Riley?
Conscious.
Conscious. Ben?
I'd go with clear.
Clear. I think Tanya? Or Esther? Let's call both of their words still and silence. Beautiful words to go with. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And I hope that you have a beautiful day moving forward. Happy hump day. And may you be wise. See you.
Thanks, Jordana. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. Bye.
Bye.